Welcome back to this crash course tutorial series. If you didn't catch parts 1 and 2, I would recommend you see those first. If you're trying to learn this content, there's a little bit of stuff there that material in 3 and 4 today will build on. So in terms of the topics, the first one is going to be framing. This is a big general blanket topic that everybody's heard of. People just mention randomly, oh, I'm going to work on how this hole's framed, or the framing here is really good, or that kind of stuff. And people talk about that, and you can kind of tell when it's done well. But what exactly does it mean? And I like to think of framing as it's all about leading the eye where you want the player to look. And usually this is, from the tee, it would be down the length of the golf hole and ultimately towards where the green is located. On the approach shots, it's just going to be towards the green site, or on a par 3, something like that. And some ways to do it, if you remember a little bit, we started this off with Pacific Dunes. So we're going to get this open just for a little bit. Before we start there, I want to hop over to, from the keyboard's not plugged in, I want to hop over to some quick photo. I spent a good while searching around to see if there were better photos. This was the best I could find, and I didn't find it myself. Dylan found this one, or got it from Andrew Green and sent it to me a while ago. I think with the black and white here, it's the easiest way to start looking at this hole, and also because it's low enough that you can actually see all the contours. Most photos of this hole are just like off from the side or aerial, and it just doesn't work as well. So anyway, with this here, I mentioned it's all about leading the eye towards the green site, and I forgot to say, once you get there, you want to keep the player's attention focused on the target. So how exactly is this doing that? The main ways here are with the natural features in the background and kind of what they do. And for the most part, if you just look at this photo, this green site, the first thing that comes to mind is this big dune back here. And there's a lot of stuff going on with it. If we start looking at other places, we have, obviously there's a bunker here, there's a smaller land ridge here, and then there's kind of like this edge of the dune there. And the important thing here is that all of this stuff, you can see a little bit here as well with the discoloration, it's all kind of pointing or guiding the eye towards the middle of this green site. From the top here, and this little contour back there, although it's kind of blending in with the person, this comes down towards the green. This over here is kind of going this way down towards the green. This little contour here helps it go this way towards the green. And then we have up the edge of this fairway to the green, and this here as well off the dune right to the green site. That is the basis of how this works. You might need a minute just to sit there and let things sink in and look at some of this a bit. So I see Narwhal, you're there. If you have any questions on this so far, feel free to ask. And if there's anything that doesn't make sense at this point, I'll just let you know what I think from there. If there's nothing there, I can move on to some fun stuff. And this is going to be, now that I've shown you what the general concept of all this is, and it doesn't mean you're going to know exactly where to go and do all this yourself yet. The big thing is to start just looking at golf courses that you like, maybe holes that you really like the way they look. Perhaps it feels really natural, this kind of stuff. And just start looking at green sites and seeing how much of this you can notice. That's the next important thing. So I want to start off with Pacific Dunes here just for a quick bit. And that is, it worked. If you remember from parts 1 and 2 of the series, especially 1, how I mentioned with green sites, they were sitting in between dunes and stuff like that. We can see here, the dunes are kind of all going this way towards the green site and then a little off here. And in particular, if we look at 13, when I mentioned how a lot of times the dunes look more natural when they're offset a little bit, well, it's not just that it's offset. If we look at it, we can kind of see some land coming off of here and through here to the green, and this shape-wise is kind of pointing this way, this edge. This dune here, the land that comes off it, is leading the eye towards the green. That's the real reason it works, not just because the green is placed by the dune. And that's why if we were to look at things this way, it still kind of works, but it's a little less flowing and natural. Anyway, hope I didn't lose any of you with that. Going to be one more quick example here before jumping over to, was it 15 or 16? I think it's 16, no 15. Yeah, here. So here on 15, this is generally where people will look at the green from. We have this stuff over here, kind of pointing this way, this little bit behind, kind of down, and then this way there. And this background dune here, if we look at it, actually that's this dune off in the distance. But from this visual, it looks like this dune's kind of pointing down this way, and then this side's kind of going this way with the land, towards the green. We can look at one more example here. We see some of the same stuff going on with this dune, kind of going towards this portion of the green. And if we look here, there's a little land contour coming towards this portion of the green. That's all we're going to go into in this course for now. The next stuff is going to be over to Cypress Point, because we love Cypress Point, right? No, that's not the real reason. Of course, the real reason is to see how stuff lays out. Looking at some green sites there compared to the actual, compared to the terrain around them. So I think I can go continue playing. Cypress Points. Resume round. And here I've kind of been cherry picking the examples to try to start with stuff that's a little more straightforward and then gradually ramp up the difficulty. If any of you watching this feel that I'm moving too quickly or have some questions, just feel free to ask. Since we have Cypress Point loaded up.
Nice to have you back on the course. Time to get back into the groove here on the first hole.
We've kind of looked at hole 9 already. It's not a huge deal to go back to here. You can see where the green sits in relation to the dune in the background. And this dune here. A little bit of terrain right here is up, but it's hard to see when it's not in black and white. Okay, all good. So then we're going to come to hole 8 here. And this one has a few important things going on. The main one is, based on what we've talked about already, this dune, the edge of this dune kind of moves down and it leads straight to where the green site is. Sounds good, Narwhal. This dune edge leads directly towards the green. From here, if you see how the green is placed and a little bit how the dune is shaped, it's still mostly doing the same thing. So a lot of that, some of this will happen naturally, but some might be that you make small small little tweaks to the macro sculpting like in here to bring this up and get it sitting just right so that like this, and then what do you know? Oh, here's the green set. Oh, it feels natural. I wonder why. Oh, good. There's one other thing going on here, and it also has to do with the dune. It's just this little bit, this little textured edge here is also leading directly towards the green. And that's really all to look at for now on that. So generally what I would recommend doing for this stuff is just look at some golf courses, especially Cypress Point. Like feel free to spend a good amount of time looking at this course, as it's one of the better examples to digest when you're new to this. We're going to go to hole 11 right here. And hole 11, you see this green site. It kind of sits up against the back of the dune. But there are a couple other things going on here. The first thing here would be that obviously it sits this way. This side of the dune kind of goes towards here. If we look from the left here, this edge of the dune, there's a little path here. This path is leading directly toward the green site. And then we're going to take this up one extra little step in complexity here, which is if we start looking at these bunkers. For the most part, these bunkers here, if we look at the shapes from above, they're kind of going this way, a little bit here, and then largely this way. Like the fingers of these bunkers, if you look at them, they're pointing to the green site. That is a really important concept as well. One of the best ways to get bunkers to work and look good when you're using these kinds of wilder shapes. So now that we have this down, a couple examples, some terrain flow. A lot of this is going to come from just spending time on your own, looking at the stuff, thinking about these principles when you're designing, because it won't sink in just over the course of like a 10 to 20 minute or 30 minute tutorial episode. It's going to take some time on your own just looking at things. And Golf Digest has a very good video called it. They've done a bunch. They have one for Cypress Point. It's like every hole at Cypress Point or something like that. I highly recommend you check out that video. But for now, we're going to take a detour to some more pictures. And here we have, I want to start with the green site for hole number 12. So we can also see now, or no, this is not a great example. I'm going to go to view image. If we start looking at this picture with some of these ideas in mind, we can see that this dune here kind of leads down in this way directly to the green. And this little land ridge here forms part of a dune on 13, goes this way. This piece right here is guiding the eye towards the green. And the kind of water's coastline part of this visual is helping to bring the eye right back to here. To add one more little thing to this, you can use all sorts of other methods to add to the frame as well. And we have here some planting. See this little kind of contrast line out there? Not surprisingly, it's leading directly to the green. So that's how this photo works. These bunkers here are kind of lightly pointing up in this direction. That's how hole 12 works. Now we're going to go to 13, this famous hole, and we have a lot of bunkers. But if we just take some time and look at these bunkers, you can see the same concept with them compared to on hole 11. This bunker right here in particular, has these little wild fingerlets that are pointing this way. And this bit right here is kind of all going like that. And these bunkers behind the green, especially these two, this bunker is pointing down this way. And then this one here is pointing down this way. This one back here It's a little advanced for now, and it just fits, kind of looks cool, the shape. It's kind of going this way. This bunker back here as well, down and to the left a little bit. These two especially, these three, are the main point of this portion of the framing topic, for bunkers at least. So once we have 13, let's take a look at number 6. Green site for hole 6. One back. Or is it? Right here, this way. We can see a lot of the same stuff happening. So we have this dune up here. It's kind of pointing down a little bit this way there, and like this way here, towards the green. And we have these bunker fingers here, also pointing towards the green. This bunker here is also kind of pointing towards the green. Where the T's are here, in combination with these bunkers in the back, points this way, down towards the green. That's a lot of the same stuff happening. Indeed, Kenyon. So that's the idea here with framing. I do want to duck into, well, actually my only fictional published for a little bit. Not so much because it's the same style or that parts of it are good or not. I want to pick some of the holes that I think are more visually interesting, but also have elements that, considering the stuff I've just gone over, I think you guys will be able to understand parts of this that you might not have before. That's why I want to do this now. So for that, we're going to look at a few of the shorter holes. Well, Kenyon, you actually missed it. I kind of started with some Pacific dunes as well, but not a big deal. Controller. And here. So, stuff we've looked at, especially with dune features. Let's go over here to hole 3 first. So one of the main driving factors behind this is the way this dune over here sits in relation to the hole. Kind of points a little bit this way coming off here and makes like a V shape, especially down to the green site. That itself is a little more advanced, but you can use dunes to point exactly like I had discussed on Cypress Point stuff. I think you will see that a little bit on hole 16. This stuff is a lot more like that. It's kind of going this way and down towards this green site. And the last thing on 3 over here, based on what we've already mentioned, is, well, 2 things actually. This was mostly accidental, coincidental, just happened naturally, or whatever you want to say. But a lot of this dune stuff back here, this is kind of leading towards the green site for this hole as well. Right through there. And some of this stuff back here kind of also directs the eye towards this green site. That's a large part of why, although it's obviously quite decorated and there's a lot of dune features in the background and planting and stuff, a lot of it is this core land and terrain stuff going on that makes it look good in the end. So that's very important. And lastly, on the bunker topic, I think it's pretty clear that this bunker is very much pointing to the green. So if we look at hole 8 next, holy bunkers, or whatever you want to say, this one should be relatively self-explanatory at this point, or at least a lot of what's going on here. Most of this is just bunker up towards the green, bunker down towards the green, bunker in towards the green, bunker in towards the green, bunker in towards the green. The main thing around here is I just pointed these bunkers towards the center of this green. And so, it keeps the eye focused right here as a result of some of this. The last thing I wanted to do, also to show off the creativity, or I should say lack thereof, when I was creating this course, is that after looking at Cypress Point number 9, this green site, there are some differences, but it probably looks a little familiar. And we can see here, there is a background hill. It's not quite a dune in this case, but it's doing a lot of the same stuff. It's going this way. The lighting shadows are helping too in this instance, but we can also see, so the terrain goes this way, this little land contour goes this way, this bunker goes up this way towards the green. If we back up just a little more, this bunker here is also leading up and towards the green. So that is the general basic concepts behind framing. In terms of working them into your designs, this stuff will take time before it starts to become natural. I'd highly recommend you start by looking at Cypress Point and just take it bit by bit. You'll pick it up a little better every day, and as long as you are interested in learning this stuff, I think you'll be able to do so just fine. Last thing I want to say for this part, actually, is that there are going to be some more advanced topics still related specifically to framing, but that will come a little bit later on in the series. And even though